Once is happenstance. Twice is coincidence. 3 times, you're starting to develop a pattern. The 4th and 5th time, I'm in full-blown conspiracy at this point. Razer. How in the world did we time this so well? I released a video about the drop sense, and in that video, I said, I wish that you guys would make something like this, because I would be like the first in line. I will go to your Miami store and literally buy it in person if I had to. And I'm here to put my money where my mouth is, because here it is. Less than 24 hours after I posted that video. I did not know this was coming, by the way. Razer did it. This is a mechanical keyboard with hot swap switches, Razer RGB, and a whole bunch of enthusiast features that are actually really awesome. And this is a really solid first attempt. So let's get right into it, because I cannot wait to actually feel this keyboard just based off of what Razer has done on it alone. Hello and welcome. My name is Wolfie. You're watching GreaterThanPie, and if you are subscribed to this channel, you've seen me ask for this keyboard multiple times. And more so, you probably also saw the shorts where I announced that I was doing this, but you probably didn't expect for me to turn this video around so fast. I'm already caffeinated, and it's entirely because it is 9 p.m. on a day that I worked the entire day, because that is how excited I am for this. So let's open this box to see why I'm so excited about it. That, and I really just can't wait anymore, you know? Typical Razer branding on the box, by the way. It's got everything you could possibly need to know about the keyboard. Hot swap switches, compact 75% layout. They say it's a comfort typing experience on the switches, but they're tacticals. So, I mean, yeah, tacticals are great for, well, just general typing. And it looks like they are going with a Razer Orange Gen 3 switch, which I am unfamiliar with, to be honest. And of course, the big selling point is the RGB and hot swap. It also has an aluminum, it says an aluminum case, but the last few times it was just an aluminum plate. Okay. Board has some heft to it. It does have a detachable cable. I thought the cable wasn't detachable, just based off of the picture on the box and on the website. And they didn't mention it anywhere, but it is detachable. Oh, this even better. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside for a second. Let's see what comes in the box, because this is a $180 keyboard. We've got an all black manual. And that had our Razer Chroma stickers in it. Oh, it even has instructions. So this is a new Razer manual that has instructions for specifically hot swapping. And ooh, did they really give me my favorite kind of switch puller slash keycap puller? It looks like they gave me my favorite type of switch slash keycap puller in here. Okay, so cardboard packing material. Here's our braided sleeved cable, which has USB-C on one side and then a standard USB on the other with its Razer green. Love these for their style, but I don't often use them because I have a custom cable that is really good looking. We have a wrist rest. This one does come with a wrist rest. And then in this box, oh, I'm excited for this. So my personal favorite style of switch puller and keycap puller is this kind. And it's beautifully branded Razer. It feels just as good as it should. And we're going to definitely be using this tonight. So love that it comes with it. As I'm sure this might actually be a lot of people's first mechanical keyboard with hot swappable switches. So that's everything in there. Let's take a look at the wrist rest. All right, so we got that Razer plastic on the bottom, which is just like for gamers by gamers. Well, it's actually a nice feel to it. It's textured this time around. The last few times that they've had these wrist rests, they weren't actually textured in any way, and I kind of like how that feels. Granted, I generally don't use wrist rests because it's actually not as good for your typing posture. Okay. She's a bit heavier than some of the Razer keyboards I've had. What part's aluminum? Oh, the top frame is aluminum. The bottom of the case is plastic. We've got height adjustment of up to 2 different sections. That is the same mechanism that Razer has used before. Now this is, interestingly enough, it's almost a high profile case. It's like just barely, like I guess it would be a medium profile case, if that makes any sense. You can not really see the switches underneath, but you can see the switches underneath, which is gonna be good for RGB, which is going to be this keyboard's claim to fame, as it has both side glow RGB and underglow RGB. Now, question is this magnetic? It is magnetic, okay. Magnetic wrist rest, all right. Enough just kind of dodging around it. I think we need to give it a sound test. Oh my goodness. Razer, what have you done? This is the first mechanical keyboard since I've gotten into the custom scene where I don't want to mod it. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but the BlackWidow is gonna be living on my desk. Oh, I was gonna change the keycaps. I've got I just bought some Tribosys 2303 for tactical switches, and then it sounds like that out of the box? I can't do better than this. What? Razer, thank you. I just got the video there. But I'm not going to, because let's actually talk what's going on under the hood and why it sounds so good. I did not expect that. Okay, so that solves an interesting question about our switches here. So underneath here, we actually have a 5-pin hot swap socket, which is actually really, really good. And I'm glad that for our first attempt, Razer did actually think about that. Additionally, taking a look at here, another really, really, really good detail is while the LEDs are north-facing, which means that the switches are also north-facing, the surface-mounted LEDs are actually behind the PCB, which means that this switch will have virtually no interference with any other switch type, which is great because just in general, having more options is better. That being said, being out of the box this good, like what the heck? There was no mention of these being lubed, but they feel lubed. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. Now these are, they're Razer's switches. Oh, they are lubed. I can see a little bit of lube over there. Okay, cool. So these are Razer switches, which are actually usually manufactured by Kale. They look very similar to box Kales, but the feel of them is very, very, very close to some of my favorite switches of all time, the Holy Pandas. They really do feel very similar. And with the actual housing being this like specialized dome shape for Razer, they've essentially got this enclosed housing that just contributes to such a great sound. I really wonder what this material is on the bottom here, because this is more than likely some type of a palm material, which is probably why it sounds so good. Overall, like this is really cool, but it gets even cooler underneath the hood. Now, while I would love to take this board apart, and I really would like to take it apart, Razer did a really good job of actually showing us what's inside this board. And when I say I don't want to mess this one up, I don't want to mess this one up. I might buy a second one just to tinker with that one because this is so good out of the box. Like this is the first Razer keyboard that I've unboxed in well over 2 years that I've just, Oh, it's so good. Okay, but what's going on under the hood here? That's actually really, really cool. So they're doing a lot that honestly, a lot of companies would make a mistake with when it comes to these kinds of boards. And I can see that there's already, that looks to be a tamper seal right there. But instead of making an all aluminum housing, the top plate, which is actually gasket mounted to the actual plate. So this top piece is actually just an aluminum housing. And then there is an FR4 plate underneath that. And that FR4 plate is then on top of the PCB, which then has its own custom tape mod that Razer implemented into this keyboard just out of the factory. Yes, they've tape modded this keyboard just instantly. And additionally, on the bottom, there's this plastic material, which, as weird as it sounds in custom keyboards, a lot of people have discovered that a plastic booty on your keyboard actually contributes to less pinging inside the case. But on top of that, there is case foam within this keyboard, which means that effectively they've done everything I would have done to this keyboard out of the box. I'm blown away. I really am blown away. Okay, so I went to Razer's website to actually check out the keyboard's landing page because I went straight to Amazon when I found out that it existed. And there's a couple of really cool details that honestly, I don't think anybody else has really talked about too much because we didn't have them all. So the tactical orange switches are actually lubed with GPL's 205G0, which is interchangeable with Crytok's 205G0. So very good to see that. And that's actually a little hack for the Holy Pandas, is to actually use 205 instead of Tribosis, because it works on them super well. And it's kind of cool that they went with that detail. It's very, very enthusiast grade detail. Now, the other thing that is super important, and I'm glad to see it, is you can buy not just replacement switches, but the different switches. So they are selling their linears and their greens. I don't know why you would buy the greens, but you can buy the linear yellows, and you can even buy the oranges, which, I mean, if you really wanted to put them in a different keyboard, that's actually not a bad idea. They are a really good switch. So you can get the linear yellows, and you can also lube them yourself. They do come in packs of 36. So you're looking at like 69 cents a switch, 70 cents a switch. Not bad. It's actually cheaper than many of the other options that I've seen out there for decent linears and decent tacticals even. And the price doesn't change per switch, which is actually pretty good. Then the last detail that I found that is actually really cool, hasn't released yet, but there is going to be a white version. And that one should come out on the 27th. So we have the black version now. The white version is definitely going to be the one that I'm going to modify. And I've already planned it out. It's going to be so perfect. I'm thinking linear switches from Razer. We do the white body. And I want to see if I can get that, like, you know, that holographic material that you get on trading cards. I want to see if I can get like some sort of a vinyl. I can do that for the top plate. And then I already have them. They're like white frosted clear keycaps. I think it's going to look pretty good. It's going to be like the RGBest RGB build. Okay, so we are here in Razer Synapse. After it picked it up, it's pretty straightforward from here. We've got per key macro adjustment, which means you can adjust to any key, symbol, Windows shortcut, multimedia, launching programs, hypershift, brightness. Oh my goodness, there's so many things. And there's actually 2 layers that you can work with. So if you go here, you can set it to hypershift, which is just the function key. And so anything that doesn't already have a function under the function key can now be assigned or reassigned. So the only thing that actually has function keys is hilariously lit up on the keyboard when you press function. And there's like only a handful. It's the delete, page up, page down, insert, function 9, 10, 11, 12, and alt keys. So all of these can be mapped to a different function if you would like, which is really cool. And so
you have almost infinite macro possibilities, and you can even adjust the scroll wheel, various different things for scrolling up and scrolling down. This button right here can have other additional functions. And then you can also change the polling rate. So on the box, it did advertise this 8,000 hertz polling rate, which means that it will talk to the computer more frequently. At 1,000, it's perfectly responsive. At 8,000, it's probably lightning fast, but it will use up more of your computer's bandwidth to appropriately keep that communication going. And if you have USB problems, you may even want to take this down lower because it will pull it less. Gaming mode does one thing and one thing only, and that's disable the Windows key by default, but it can also disable Alt F4, not a bad idea, and disable Alt Tab if you would like. Personally, I keep Alt Tab open because, I mean, if I'm using Alt Tab, there's a reason for it. And then, of course, the most important thing is the lighting. So not only do you have like basic control like this, but if you use the studio function, you can actually, on a per key basis and in a sort of vacuum or locational basis, set your RGB and your lighting, which ends up being really cool. And you can have all of these layers. I don't actually know what the maximum number of layers is, but you can have a stupid amount of layers going at any given time to create all sorts of crazy profiles. And then if you are inclined, you can then set those profiles in the Profiles tab to run on specific games. So once a game opens, it sets that profile to automatically open, which is one of my favorite features of Razer Synapse. And if you combine it with something like a 1 RGB PC, like the ones that I have on my desk, you end up with a really cool effect that can actually change per game, even if it's not featured in the Razer Connect section.
Okay, guys, after a long and arduous gaming session and some real test work on this PC, and very little sleep, let's talk about it, because this is by far the best out of the box gaming keyboard I've ever used. Plain and simple. And even more so in the custom space, it's already pretty much where you would want it to be. And it gets even better. So I originally thought that it was actually only a partial gasket mount. Turns out, no, it is a full gasket mount. There's a gasket between the top and the bottom piece of the case and the plate, which is that FR3 plate. Additionally, the PCB does have a couple of secrets underneath the hood here. While it does use plate mounted stabilizers for its current iteration, it can actually also accept screw-in stabilizers. That's right, you can use screw-in stabilizers on a Razer keyboard. That's better than most custom kit boards out there. Like, this is already above the ROG Swift 2. It's already above Logitech's current keyboard. And even in the custom scene, there are things like the drop, alt, and control, which do not come nearly as close as this is to just being a perfect keyboard out of the box. Razer did an amazing job. And the best part about this entire package, and it's how the combination of hardware and software make this the best RGB keyboard that you can have that has hot swap, and it's lightning fast. That polling rate on the box is adjustable, and it is impressive how well this board actually performs. During our testing, we found that it actually almost has like a hairline trigger effect on how fast you can actually mash the buttons. And on top of that, without it being an optical, which makes it even faster, it was stupid responsive. And these switches are good. They have a really kind of high point actuation, which does make them very comparable to the Holy Pandas, which is what I thought they were kind of going after. But they actually have a really good sound at the bottom out. They have a really good feel going all the way down. The lube job is a little light, but as a tactical switch, that's okay. And they are adequately smooth. The keycaps are interesting. They went with a porous material, which is grippier, which I guess would be better for gaming, but not what I'm used to. At the same time, they do let the RGB shine. And these keycaps are entirely designed around making sure that RGB gets through them as evenly and as nicely as possible. There's actually a very thick diffusion layer on these keycaps. So overall, this board is great. It is incredibly DIY focused. And I also was wrong about there being hidden screws. The screws on the back are all you need to take this apart. And this top plate comes off. There are some media controls over here that you need to be careful of. There's a ribbon cable that connects them, but Razer does expect you to take this one apart and mod it and do whatever you want with it. It is the perfect gateway into the custom keyboard scene. And for me, it is the perfect default keyboard for my desk. Now, we're gonna do two things, all right? One, my next prediction, because Razer, you made this on this premonition, but this one, if this doesn't happen, like this is kind of obvious. We're gonna get an announcement very, very soon for a 60% version of this keyboard with hot swap. And that's going to be probably the next major launch for the BlackWidow series. I will buy that when it comes out. But the second thing, I'm gonna be buying a second one of these because I want it to be my alt keyboard as well. So something I do, and I don't know if all keyboard enthusiasts do this or if I'm just weird, is I keep one keyboard as my alternative keyboard, the one that I switch to when I want a different feel. And personally, I like to have a tactical and a linear keyboard. And I think, because I'm keeping this one stock and actually gonna use it stock, my second one, I'm going to make the absolute craziest, like themed keyboard I possibly could. So I'm thinking brand new keycaps, linear switches of some kind, hand lubing if I have to, maybe even some case modding. I would love to like actually make a skin for this top plate because it is a fingerprint magnet, but I want to keep one of them absolutely stock to be my default board. Overall, I love it. And Razer, you did an amazing job. This is literally the best gaming keyboard that I have purchased in forever, it feels like. There is not even a competition between this and what Razer has put out recently. Now, their Huntsmans were good. In fact, actually, I've already made a Huntsman with lubed switches because while they're not supposed to be, you can actually remove the switches from a Razer Huntsman. And a Razer Huntsman analog has some of the best switches. Like it just hands down does. The only issue with that one was a software related issue and why it didn't end up living on my desk. So this one will be, and I will be using it for the foreseeable future. And so much so that I'm buying a second one and the 60% when it inevitably comes out. And heck, maybe I'll even buy a second 60% just so that I can have one stock and one custom of all of them. Seems a little excessive, but I love this. I really love this keyboard. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this, consider giving a like, maybe commenting and subscribing. And leave a comment. Do you want this keyboard? Do you want to leave one of these keyboards stock? Do you want a fully custom version of this keyboard? I know many of you guys want me to customize this keyboard. And so that's why I'm also getting the second one so that I can really, screw around with it. But overall, this is the best keyboard I've used out of the box, plain and simple. And if you want to also, you can check out this shirt down below. It is my favorite shirt that I've created thus far. I have a really good design for the next batch of shirts that I'm making. So I'll probably make that soon. Just that shirt, just so good. But yeah, that's where we're gonna end it. Thank you so much for watching. Wolfie, out.